Hey there, everybody. Welcome to our Walking Dead Daryl Dixon series premiere reaction and review. We're going to go into episode 1. Be very lucky that we did not start this video out by saying, "What's crackin', noob?"
Oh, I know, right?
First, welcome to meme culture, The Walking Dead. Actually, welcome to meme culture 15 years ago, The Walking Dead. No, I really enjoyed the premiere. I didn't know what to expect. Daryl, I liked Daryl in the original. He was never my favorite character, so
How dare you?
I'm just being honest here. But I really enjoyed this a lot. Like, I actually enjoyed this episode more than I did most of Dead City, and I like Dead City, but I feel like this is sort of raising the
Mm.
game a little bit.
Okay, I really liked Dead City a lot. Like,
Mhm.
there was a lot of really good tension there and a lot of, it was very intimate, and this feels very big world. I wasn't sure what to expect. I like Daryl Dixon probably a little bit more than you,
Yeah.
but in general, he is a character. Of course, if you've been following The Walking Dead all this time, he's a character that doesn't really open up a lot, and especially with new people. He's in a new land with new people. I wasn't sure, also the language barrier. I wasn't sure how much he was really going to be opening up. And that's been the part of Daryl Dixon for me that I've liked the most about him, is that throughout the years on the original
Mhm.
show, we've been able to watch him really get close with people and open up a lot more than he ever has before. So going into this, I was kind of like, uh-oh, like, are we going to get the older Daryl Dixon where he's just not going to trust anybody, he's not going to open up to anybody, and we're going to have a lot of him just being silent and grunting at people? That was not the case. I really liked this premiere. When I first saw that it was an hour, I was like, I really hope they make good use of this hour, and they did. It
Yeah.
was it was compelling. There's new characters that I'm really invested in. It was beautiful to look at. I mean, the scenery, the
Yeah.
world, like, it was really cool. And they've introduced the burners. So there's new walkers there. And the way that it was said, it sounds like that's one of a few different types of walkers that are over in France.
We need this. We need different reasons to be afraid. Listen, we've all grown numb to the standard Walker du jour that we have seen on The Walking Dead. Now, we're going to share a lot of theories about what could be coming up. We'll get into what we liked about the premiere. If you are new to the channel, I am Matt. This is Jess. We are going to be here after every episode of
Mhm.
Daryl Dixon breaking this stuff down. So hit that subscribe button. That is the best way to make sure you don't miss any of our coverage as we move forward.
All right. Is Laurent the Carl that was promised to us? Like, for me, one of the biggest problems that I ever had with The Walking Dead, and I know many of you feel the same, was that they killed off Carl, and that Carl was sort of the guy that was promised, that was going to go forward in the world and try to bring people together. He had he grew up in this world. He had such a intimate knowledge of everything that was sort of in his area and through life and his adventures with his dad and everybody else, that when he finally he became a young adult, he was like, you know what? There's another way to go about this. It isn't just about surviving. There is going to be a way to thrive. And I'm going to be, a person who's going to be part of that. And then, of course, they killed him off. And I was like, there goes the hope, sort of thing. And now here we are in France with Laurent, where there's another young guy who is sort of the Carl who was promised, who could go forward. He gets these gut feelings about things and is able to sort of not see into the future, but maybe a little bit. But the idea is supposed to be that he is going to bring people together and sort of make a big change.
I will say here from the start, my French is not très bien. My knowledge of French was I took French for like a couple of days in high school, and then I realized I would have to choose between that and marching band, so I chose marching band.
Listen, I grew up in Canada where, French is one of our national languages. I took French up to grade 10. I even had French immersion from like grade 3 to 6, and I was having some trouble keeping up with it. I was able to pick up
Yeah.
a little bit here or there, but not nearly enough.
If I say Laurent at one point in this, I apologize. I am sorry. I know it is Laurent. I'm doing my best here, everybody.
Listen, we're going to be doing our best here.
Yeah. Okay. So what I really found fascinating about Laurent and his sort of status as the quote unquote chosen one within this universe. Like, I know that there are inevitable comparisons with this show and The Last of Us. Like, they're all over the internet.
Y
Now, it is to kind of bring this into Lost. We've got a show of science and a
Mhm,
show of faith because The
mhm,
Last of Us, it was all about scientifically Ellie can be a cure.
mhm,
I think what makes this interesting is there is this faith, this hope that Laurent can be the chosen one.
mhm,
They don't really know. It makes sense to me that they would think this though, because these people are so desperate. They have been living in this zombie apocalypse. I
mhm.
think when that happens, you are willing to cling to anything that makes you feel like someone has the capacity to sort of change the world.
Yeah, there's been lots of comparisons to The Last of Us, like The Last of Us is the first TV show or game or movie that's ever just had like an adult taking a child somewhere because they are the chosen one. There's something
Yeah,
special about them. They're the cure. The Last of Us is not the first to do this. They will not be the last to do this. And the comparisons, I mean, they really shouldn't be there. They feel very, very different.
they do. And this show has a different sort of supporting cast all around it. And this to me so far is what makes Daryl Dixon better than Dead City. Is I like the supporting cast here a little bit more.
Yeah, I agree on that.
Isabel is incredible. I'm just gonna say that right now. Isabel's my favorite. I am all about
Mhm.
a nun who also can kill things. Like, this is also not the first show or movie that has done this, but guess what? Anytime you have a dangerous nun, I'm just like, all right, I'm in. Let's go.
No, she's great. She's a 10 out of 10. I agree that the supporting cast in Daryl Dixon is better than Dead City. Though I will say the whole beginning with, Maribel and everything that was going on there with the robbery and Corden. And I mean, we've kind of seen this idea of people who are trying to run things. We've seen,
Yeah.
the saviors and just running around being like, "Oh, we control everything." I was like, this this has been done on The Walking Dead so many times. I'm not invested in the Mary Bell character.
They're gonna have to really win us over, I think, when it comes to whatever adversaries we see this season. It's like the fight scenes were cool, don't
Yeah, they
get me
were.
wrong. Like, we'll get into the ending a little bit later, but I think in general, the good guys right now are who are commanding my attention. And I think a lot of it just sort of stems from how much of this franchise we've seen and really how little they have sort of dove into religion and the
Mhm.
apocalypse. And I understand why AMC wants to get as many mainstream viewers as they possibly can. They don't want to turn people off, but I think how they presented religion in this episode at least was very fascinating, where you sort of had characters like Isabel who has not had faith, has had faith, who is not in some ways fanatical, but also is a part of this group that believes that Lauren may be the Messiah. There's a lot of different things at play.
Yeah, there is. And, Lost is a really good comparison to that because that really was sort of faith versus science. What is really going on here? Where should we be landing on this? And I think for Daryl, who's really lost right now, this is an interesting place for him to be. He's out there, trying to find people, trying to figure things out, and this is where he ends up. He ends up in France. He's now on this journey where he's met Isabella and he's met Laurent. Oh my God, it was so cute seeing that scene where Daryl's having a soup and Laurent's across the courtyard having the soup. He's like mimicking him because he's grown up in this convent where there's no other men there, no one to sort of learn from or see anything from. It was just so cute to see him doing that.
It was, and I think he's gonna look at Daryl as sort of, I don't want to say a parental figure, but somebody, a role model.
Mentor.
They look alike. They both have like the long hair. It's gonna be fun watching the two of them. I don't think it's any surprise that, later on in the episode Daryl agrees to do this, but I
Yeah.
think the journey was what made it fun, because if we're gonna put ourselves in Daryl's shoes, "Hey everybody, I'm Daryl Dixon."
Uh-oh.
That I don't know, that kind of sounds more like Rick. But anyway, if I'm in Daryl's shoes here and I see the locked up zombified priest, at that point, I'm out. Like you can't convince me of anything at that point.
No, and I think we all saw it coming that, we were gonna see Corden come, roll up to the convent and be like, "Let me in." It was gonna turn into a problem. Daryl saw it, he showed up, and that was sort of the catalyst for him being like, "Okay, I'm gonna take Laurent, we're gonna go." And I think it's gonna be a really interesting story for the Laurent character in general, because having young people who are kind of like teenagers, it's always kind of hit and miss. Sometimes
Yeah.
you get a really rich character like Carl. Sometimes you don't, like over on Justified, where Raylan's daughter was just like the typical bratty teenager, where we've seen that a lot. Where here we have Laurent, who's like really book smart. He's been taught math and science and faith and everything he could possibly know. But when we first see him, he's in the courtyard, like standing on cans and trying to fight. It's like world adventure is something that's very clearly missing for him, like real world experience. That's why when we first see him across the courtyard from Daryl, and he's like, "Oh, there's another man here. He's
Yeah.
from outside of here. Let's see what he's doing. Oh, he's eating an apple like this. Me too." I was just like, this is really cute.
It's really cute, and it's really representative of the fact that you have a lot of people on Daryl Dixon who have gone through the rigors on The Walking Dead. I
Yeah.
think they sort of know what makes kid characters interesting, what makes them not interesting, and
Yeah.
they can sort of pull a little bit from that. I think Daryl, this isn't even a full tinfoil hat prediction or anything, but he's going to have his hands full with Laurent for the reasons that you have said. When you have somebody who has never been out on an adventure like this before, all of a sudden they're thrown out there. It is a completely different world. It would be like, if I had never had Fun Dip before, and I love Fun Dip, but like I have Fun Dip for the first time, I'm just like pouring all the Fun Dip in my mouth. I'm going hyperactive and crazy because I've never had it before.
Yeah, I think that Daryl's gonna have his hands full. I mean, Isabel basically said that Laurent does not know what is going on. He
Yeah.
doesn't really understand where he's going to be going or why he's going on this trip or what's going to be happening. So the whole idea is that Daryl's going to be taking him up north to a place that's going to be able to help him thrive. That the nuns feel like they've gotten Laurent as far as they're able to with him, but that he needs more just mentorship, and there's nothing more that they can do. And sort of in exchange, Isabel then is going to bring Daryl even further north to the shores where there's allegedly, it's just rumor, she doesn't know for sure, boats that go in and out and dock and actually sail, and that could get him back to America.
Yeah, and I mean that obviously seems to be his end game at the end of all of this. I mean, will he make it there? Well, they've already renewed the show for a season 2, so I don't think it's gonna happen all that fast.
No, I mean, it's such a long journey. There's only like a handful of
Yeah.
episodes. My real hope is that they don't actually end up at this, place for Laurent this season. I want to see the journey continue on next season. This does not need to be wrapped up really quickly,
Yeah.
especially with this premiere where they spent a good long hour taking their time, letting this episode breathe, like letting us have time to get to know these characters and really build this up. If this whole season is like this and they don't rush it, this is going to be a beautiful season.
Yeah, beautiful is the right word because you mentioned earlier the scenery, the cinematography is really cool, really distinct. Like I think they do a great job of sort of just capturing the ancientness of France, and I understand France is not the most ancient place in the world, but when you're comparing it to America, where basically everything is only just a few hundred years old, like you really can dive into history and different
Mhm.
architectures and all this sort of different stuff and culture that you can't do here. And I imagine that's one of the reasons why Norman was kind of game on doing this after being this same character for so freaking long. It would have been easy to just be like, I'm not going to do this anymore. But I mean, good on him and the producers for finding something that feels different.
very different. I mean, I'm very excited to see what these different types of walkers are going to be. The idea, like in the first 10 minutes where we see him, get grabbed by a walker, all of a sudden his skin is burning.
Yeah.
I was like, what is happening over in France? And then, yeah, Isabel's like, oh, yeah, there's a couple different types here. That one's just the one that'll burn you. I was like, oh, no.
No, none of this is fun. Okay, let's just talk about the boat people because this is the end of the episode. This is clearly where we are building at this point. So, what do we know exactly about what was going on there? Clearly, Daryl interrupted whatever their plans may have been. It seems like they're doing some sort of research, some sort of experimentation that is out there. And maybe this is a boat just because if something goes terribly awry, you're not dooming the rest of the world to whatever zombified stuff you're up to.
Yeah, it seems like it's basically a floating lab that they have people that are there. They have walkers that are there. It seemed like Daryl was on there. They were calling them prisoners. So I'm not sure why Daryl was on there. We don't really know everything about it yet. We just know that they were very likely out in the middle of the ocean
Yeah.
because he went over the side. We saw him, float up on the shores, further down south, and now he's going to be going back up north. He doesn't know that this boat is there that he was on. Clearly, he caused some problems there because it's like, oh, all the research is destroyed. We don't know, how we're going to get all this back. There's a bunch of walkers on this boat that seemingly they were doing research on. Are they actually looking for a cure? Like, what was this? Were they trying to turn these walkers into something else, like a bigger, like, I don't know, weapon or something?
Yeah.
It's hard to know. We only met them for like 5 seconds, right?
Yeah.
But what we do know is that Daryl is on his way back up there and that boat is docked there. So that tells me that what Isabella said is that she was like, listen, it's a rumor that ships are coming in and out of here. I don't know if it's true or not, but that's the rumor. Seems like that rumor is true. However, the boat that has docked there wants Daryl Dixon.
It's a bad time for Daryl. I will say this. This is just sort of maybe it's my theory, maybe it's my hope for where they're going is that I don't think we need boat people to be completely evil. I think it would be more interesting to me if what they are doing is something that they legitimately feel is right. Like maybe it's a cure, but even if it's not a cure, maybe it's just something that can suppress the zombies, that makes them less dangerous, just something to actually sort of help the world. But the process in which they're doing this, it may just be a teensy bit unethical to say the least, and they're just these means to an end people.
I'll just say that, like, for me, I don't even need the people that are waiting there at the dock.
Okay.
Like, I didn't even need that. Like, to me, there's already, when they introduced these walkers that can burn you. And Isabel's like, oh, there's a whole bunch of these different types of walkers out there. I'm like, okay, threat, brand new, tons of brand new threat out there. We have Corden out there who I'm just kind of like, I've seen you before. Like, you're not really that threatening to me. Daryl's dealt with guys like you, bigger than you. He's dealt with Negan, like, way bigger than you. So you got to show me something else. Like, you can't just be a guy riding around in a truck with a bunch of guns. It's like, meh.
Oh.
Yeah, I've seen that already.
Yeah.
But with the different types of walkers, then you throw in Laurent, who's just like, hey, I'm new to the world. I don't know what's going on. What's this? What's that? Let me do this. Let me touch that. That's already going to cause a whole bunch of dangers and problems. Like the road up to this, place up north for Laurent to be mentored at is already going to be treacherous. I don't need there to be an evil floating lab at the at the shore waiting for Daryl.
No,
with a revenge. How could you ruin my lab? I was just like, oh, okay, I don't need you guys.
Yeah, the revenge part of this feels like we may be going a little bit too much into like cartoony villain with this.
Yeah, it's a little bit weird. That's like, I understand she's mad that Daryl has wrecked her lab, but like Daryl's not coming back to you. So exactly like what is What are you hoping to gain out of this? It's not like Daryl's got some master plan where he's like, "Oh, I wrecked everything on the ship, and now I'm going to come back and I'm just going to sink the boat." Like, what is the purpose of this except that you're mad?
Friends is also a very big place. Like,
Yes.
it's a long time. You can do a whole new experiment in the time it takes for you to potentially find Daryl.
What are the chances you're ever gonna find Daryl again? I feel like 100% they're gonna they're
Yeah,
gonna run into each other, but like, what are the real
yeah,
chances? They're pretty much zero.
that's the
So it
thing.
just feels like I didn't. For me, the episode ended before the boat.
Okay, I am a little more into the boat than you are, but I need to see it. I need to get a little bit more context and understanding before I'm like fully all in. Like the one last thing I'll say, and this is just a small thing, I appreciated the Merle reference. Like it was just a very nice little reminder of where Daryl has come from, that this show is not forgetting about its history.
No, I really loved the back and forth with Isabel and Daryl with the bathtub where they were, sharing stories about their scars, about their siblings, families, sort of. That's why that was my big worry going in, was that Daryl was not going to open up to anybody, and he did, and it was really compelling. This was a great premiere.
Yeah, I know The Walking Dead has been on a billion years, but this feels fresh enough and interesting enough that I think we could be set up for a very interesting season from here on out.
Yeah.
And we hope you guys are part of the ride with us. We will all traverse through this French countryside. So hit that subscribe button. Thank you to all of our patrons for your support, and we'll
Thank
see
you.
you here next time.